6, 2020. Rick is sleeping. All of a sudden he hears an explosion. He runs to find an AC-13 has crash-landed in his field. He hops in the truck and speeds to the plane. Once he's there, he hops out and runs to the cockpit. Surprisingly, no one is in though, but he finds an iPhone 5 lying on the pilot seat. He lifts it up to find that it doesn't have a scratch. He turns it on to find it's paused on a recording. He presses play and watches the video. The screen is black, but the sound is on. "Bail, bail, we're losing altitude. Mayday, mayday," he hears through the phone's tiny speaker. Then he hears barking. He looks through the window to see his dog barking at the plane. "Calm down, Drifter," he says. His dog keeps barking at the plane. He steps out of the cockpit to see a really ugly van approaching. He notices that the people in it are teenagers. "They must have seen the crash," he mumbled. All of a sudden the van stopped. The teen with a modified leg stepped out. The teen yelled, "What'd you do?" Rick paused. Before he could speak, his dog took off after the van. Afraid, the van sped off. The next day, Rick drove back to the plane, followed by his dog. He walks up to the plane, searching for more details. All of a sudden, he smells smoke. He looks toward the house to find it's on fire. He runs back to the truck and speeds toward the plane. As he drives, he spots his neighbor's car speeding away. As he arrives, his house is leveled. He decides to call the cops and tell them everything. As he dials, an idea strikes him. The plane's on my land, he thought, and therefore it's rightfully mine. Because of the thought, he decides to live in the plane and rebuild it. But since he's already dialed, he told them about his neighbor lighting his house on fire. They didn't believe him, so he hung up. Steamed, he searched for more evidence. That night, he camped out by the plane thinking how he was going to rebuild it and where he was going to get the money to rebuild it. Then another idea struck him. He would run a tourist attraction. Then he remembered the teens and how his dog would not enjoy the idea. He also didn't like the idea of people snooping around his land. Then he decided to get a donation station set up, telling everyone what happened while they stay off his land. That was what he'd do. He started working right away. First he made a huge sign saying what happened. Then he made a tin cup on a tin post with a sign reading, "Donations please." All he had to do now was wait by the station with his dog. The first people to show up were teenagers that were on his land before. The first thing they did was apologize for trespassing. They gave him $50 after he told them what he had planned. "Well, that's a good start," he told his dog. They had many other visitors that day. At the end of the day, they had a grand total of $2,657. After several months, they had enough money to buy replacements. They walked to a payphone and ordered the supplies. It took 2 days of waiting, and finally supplies came. They started rebuilding as soon as they had supplies. People would come and watch them build. They would also donate to make bets on when it would be finished. They had it up and running in 10 months. The good thing was they already knew how to fly, so they sold the 20 acres and flew home to Pueblo, Colorado.